Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I am super stoked for today's show. But before we get started, I need to ask our audience out there to please visit cobrt.com. You can sign up for our newsletter and keep up on updates with all of our partners. You can also check out our events page. And on Friday, we are very excited to host Colorado Compact at MSU Denver. So be sure to sign up for that on our events page. But I'm going to go ahead and get today's show started. I have in studio with me Lynn Granger, Executive Director of the Colorado Petroleum Council. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Also super stoked to be here.
Wonderful. Oh, that makes me happy to hear when people are excited to be in the hot seat. So some people may know, some people may not know, you are the new Executive Director for Colorado Petroleum Council. You've been there for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Yes. So fresh and exciting stuff. And I want to learn how it's been going for you. But before we do that, I want to hear a little bit about you and your background and ultimately what led you to CPC.
Sure. So I'm originally from Colorado. I grew up here, went to school. I joined the U.S. Army.
Oh, cool.
Right out of high school. I was very interested in journalism, and I'm super impatient by nature, and I thought, what's the fastest way I can just start doing this job right now? And the Army was that fastest way, apparently. So by the age of 19, I was in South Korea as a morning radio DJ, and then moved on to do a lot of different things. The Army afforded me a ton of amazing opportunity, experience, training. So I did public affairs and strategic communications for them for over a decade, spent 3 years in South Korea, almost 7 in Germany. Have 2 boys, wanted to get home, probably time to come on back. And I tell everyone I had the opportunity to travel all over Europe. I've been to 34 countries, but every time I fly into DIA, I am home. I love this state. My family's here, grew up here, wanted to raise my boys here. So we moved back in 2015. I did some time at the Colorado Department of Revenue as their comms director, which was super interesting. Learned way more about marijuana than I ever thought I would coming back home. And then spent about a year at Colorado Concern, which is a membership organization, CEO based, did a ton of different business policy issues in the state. Very interesting, learned a lot, and was involved with 112 last year. Which got me super interested in the oil and natural gas industry here in the state. Super impressed with the industry here and how they operate, and just a great group of people. So I was happy to support the No on 112 last year. And then, of course, they rolled right into Senate Bill 181 this year in the ledge session. And this position became available. And, I say, I don't have an oil and natural gas background. However, my time with the U.S. Army, I'm really focused on this industry from a national security perspective and maintaining our energy independence. And I think Colorado is certainly, 5th in oil production, 5th in natural gas production in the U.S. It's key. It's very important to our national security. And I want to see this industry continue to be robust and operate safely and mitigate environmental impacts, which they do all of that right now. So I'm super excited to be part of the team and helping tell that story for the industry.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. First of all, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And also, thank you for being a part of journalism, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of, I get teased a lot for being on the radio. Isn't that a dying art? Well, you still need to get your news somewhere, right? You still need to hear about things that are going on, and journalism will continue to be there. It's just going to change forms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, wonderful background. And I find it interesting that coming from the Army, you are so interested from a national security perspective to making sure that we keep gas and oil production here. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you mean in regards to that.
Sure. So I, again, through my travels, have the opportunity to spend a lot of time in countries like Ukraine and the Baltics, and I, see firsthand what it's like for countries that don't have their energy independence and they maintain or rely on other countries for energy, and it's scary to me because I've seen it firsthand. And I think we have the ability. We do it in a safe manner. We're all about trying to mitigate environmental impacts. We do it in a good way, particularly in Colorado. We have some of the strictest regulations, I would say, not just in the U.S., but in the world. We are what right looks like, I feel. And so I think we need to continue to produce, maintain that energy independence. We just achieved it for the first time in 75 years, which is incredible. And I want to maintain it. That's a great achievement for our country, and I'm proud of it. And we need to just keep going.
I agree. I want to actually hone in on this a little bit because I think a lot of people forget energy is everything that we do. Petroleum is in your phones that you hold on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
You can't turn on your lights without energy production. So I think a lot of people get lost on, yes, let's maintain our pristine mountains and the great landscapes that we have here. And the nice thing about Colorado, as you said, we have some of the strictest laws in the world. But we are able to still maintain having this energy production here and have it be safe.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
it is so important to have that independence because once you lose that, there's a lot of trouble that can be had.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not a choice. We don't have to choose between having a robust oil and natural gas industry or being safe and mitigating environmental impacts. It's not a choice. We can have both of those things, and they go hand in hand, and we're doing that today. It's funny you mentioned the petroleum byproducts. It's pretty incredible. Over 600 different items from our petroleum byproducts, to include toilet seats. I always like to bring that one up. I'm like, did you go to the bathroom today?
Yeah.
That's a petroleum byproduct. Our phones, all of that. I talk to my kids about their Xboxes and their, all of those things are every day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really all around us.
Absolutely. And we can't survive at this point without it at all. That being said, we have new leadership, right? Governor Polis. Mm-hmm. And so you dabbled on 181. So we want to get into the nitty gritty of that. And two big things came about with that. One, the OGCC's mission was changed, which impacts a lot. And also, we have now put legislation to local entities rather than a statewide regulation here. So I'm sure that's really interesting on the oil and gas industries. So what has been your takeaway so far? I know you've only got 4 weeks under your belt, and so tell me what you can. And obviously you've studied a little bit more since you got into the position, but tell me your thoughts on where you see this going and how it's a hindrance.
Sure. So I think largely a lot of the impacts remain to be seen, right? We're embarking on what will likely be a couple years of rulemakings that will need to occur out of Senate Bill 181. Part of that was, as you touched on, the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission changed. Their mission changed from fostering the production of oil and natural gas to regulating the production with a focus on health, safety, welfare, and environment. Again, as I mentioned, I think this industry has already historically done a really great job in all of those areas. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to showcase exactly what we have been doing in those areas as we go through these rulemakings. The other piece is that local control piece. Right now, local governments have the opportunity to come in and regulate to, what they see fit for their local jurisdiction or their counties. And we're already starting to see that happen at the local level, which is great. Weld County is, looking at ways that they can set up their regulations for their local control. Adams County also taking a look at that. I think both of them hope to have those local regulations in place by the end of the summer, and we'll be certainly at the table and participating as a stakeholder in their rulemaking and regulation process. So that's exciting. We were a bit disappointed. So one of the rulemakings right out of the gate was actually this week, and it was Monday and Tuesday of this week, and it was meant to be more kind of administratively focused and not very contentious, just trying to use administrative law judges and hearings officers to kind of take the load off of the COGCC so that they can really focus on these bigger rulemakings that we have coming up. Unfortunately, that rulemaking was continued, so we didn't no finality there, and they'll take it back up at the end of July, beginning of August. But I think one of the things I'm definitely most concerned about coming in is that we, as an industry, we certainly want to talk to everybody, all stakeholders, address issues, again, have that opportunity to showcase kind of how we're already addressing some of the issues brought up by SB 181. But we need some stability, right, for the industry. We need to, yes, we need to get through these rulemakings, and we want to do that. But I am very concerned that about the delay, and we need to have scope and focus on exactly what the rulemaking is as prescribed by Senate Bill 181. So that's definitely a focus of mine that I want to make sure we're addressing as we go forward. That we're just having that focus, keeping to the scope, and getting through the rulemaking so that we can have some stability.
Do you think that perhaps, and this is going to be your opinion, I don't want this isn't necessarily a reflection of CPC, but do you think that perhaps the delay in getting those rulemaking tenants down was part of pushing oil and gas out?
So I don't know.
Right.
I don't want to speculate, but I will say, I really appreciate the fact that Director Robbins and Director Gibbs have stated, we want to hear from everybody. We want to give everyone the opportunity to voice their concerns. Absolutely. However, when you've got just a tight window, right, the 2 days in which to complete the rulemaking, and you're allowing for testimony, that's wildly outside of the scope of what the rulemaking is about. That will cause delays, right? And it did. In fact, it delayed it so much that they had to continue the rulemaking. And so, while I appreciate the fact that we certainly want everybody's voices heard and everybody's issues addressed, we also need to balance that with being able to have meaningful, effective work done on these rules.
Exactly. So right now, where are we standing as an industry overall? So I would like to actually address CPC's, how we're doing. You guys are thriving, doing very well right now. Could change once we get more rules down. But let's talk about current trends and what we see at CPC.
So yeah, I think the industry as a whole is doing well. They're great. I mean, it's just a great group of folks there that's had a hard time the last couple years, right? Coming out of Initiative 112 and run it right into 181. They've got energy. We're here. We're ready to get through these rulemakings and just make sure that at the end of the day, we're going to see some meaningful rules that really allow for the industry to continue to operate in the same manner, that it's been operating, which is safe, focus on health and focus on environmental impacts. And I think we're all ready to do that. We're just ready to get in there and have the conversations and get the rules on the books and move forward.
Awesome. So let's talk about what we're seeing in the future then. Let's disregard legislation for the moment. What kind of things are we going to be seeing as we move on? Obviously, we always keep health and safety in mind, and the fact that they changed the OGCC wording had no bearing on the industry. I personally don't think we were already focused there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's talk about the future.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Looking beyond, 181, I really want to look for opportunities. And one of my main priorities coming into this position is how can we partner better with the state, with non-traditional allies. I want to be a really great partner in this state. And we already are. This industry, the philanthropic contributions from this industry are really amazing. We do a ton in the communities that we operate in, which is fantastic. But I want to see, how do we partner even further with the state, right, to help the state achieve some of their goals? We've got a lot going on. We all have the same vision in mind. We live here too. We want to make this the best possible state to live, work, and play. So we're committed to that. And what does that look like, and how do we partner more? I was very impressed to understand that, between 1990 and 2016, this industry has invested more than $339 billion, with a B, dollars in improving the environmental performance of fuels, operations, and facilities, which is incredible. $339 billion, that's not a small number.
No, not at all.
And so, again, when we say we are looking for ways to mitigate environmental impacts, we are actually working, putting money, putting innovation, putting technology towards solving those problems. We are problem solvers by nature, and so I want to see how we can partner more in the future to help be part of the solution and problem solve.
Absolutely. That is great to hear. And 339 billion with a B. Just to reiterate and underline that for our audience. You mentioned non-traditional allies. Define for me what that is for you guys.
Yeah, sure. So I think, if you know, we had Pride Week last week, was it? I think, and we had a whole host of activities. So I moderated a panel, a Pride and Energy panel, which was great. We brought in LGBTQ folks that either work in the industry or support the industry in some way. That was a really great discussion that we had. We supported the Pink Party, which was fantastic, and then a lot of our member companies and a lot of employees in the oil and natural gas industry in the state actually marched in the Pride Parade on Sunday. So that's just one example, and we hope to keep that relationship going all year round.
Yeah, politically speaking, that seems like a clash of interests, right? Because everyone tends to politically on a scope say oil and gas is very conservative and right-wing, and while the LGBTQ people tend to be on the left. And so when you talk about putting those two together, I went last year to the CPC panel that you had, and one of the interesting things is that a lot of the panelists who are LGBTQ members themselves said that they had a harder time telling their families that they worked for oil and gas than coming out. I found that incredibly interesting.
Yeah, we asked the same question this year, and it was as true as it was the year before, which is that's saying a lot.
It is.
For sure.
It is saying a lot, and I think a lot of people really put oil and gas in this place of old school thinking, when really you guys are very technologically innovative.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's something I wanted to touch on as well, right? The partisan sort of nature of the industry. I mean, the last time I checked, my car wasn't Republican. My gas my phone isn't partisan. Like,
right?
This industry and energy in general should not be a partisan issue. Is not and should not be, but it is, unfortunately, it is partisan.
It's perceived that way, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also really want to focus on that piece, that it is nonpartisan. We all, enjoy energy and byproducts of petroleum every day. It affects all of us. So we need to try as best we can to put that aside and just focus on the issue at hand.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I definitely am glad that I don't have to use candles every night. Awesome stuff that we've got going on here. I want to talk to you, seeing as you've got this new position at CPC. What is your vision for 2019, 2020? What is a good accomplishment that you would like to get done in the next calendar year?
Well, definitely, again, going back to the rulemaking, those are very important for us. And I really, my hope is that we come to the table, we have good, sound, realistic discussions around the industry, and we get to reasonable regulations for the industry. And that's definitely my number one goal. We have, not only do we have rulemakings at the COGCC, but we also have rulemakings that are prescribed by Senate Bill 181 at the AQCC, the Air Quality Control Commission. So between those, we're looking at 12 or 13 rulemakings between now and scheduled for next summer. So obviously that's definitely a focus. And I think another thing is just communication. I've mentioned a couple times about helping to tell this story. I think that's really important. I think if people really understood everything that this industry does around health, safety, and environment, I don't know that we would be necessarily in the situation we are right now with Senate Bill 181. I think largely it's a communication issue. And, Coloradans are smart. We're some of the most educated voters in the country, which is fantastic. I think Coloradans are willing to hear, information and hear both sides. And so one of my number one priorities is going to be that communication and trying to inform and educate the public about this industry how vital it is, how we are what right looks like in the nation, and how it's not a choice. We can have our cake and we can eat it too, and that's going to be my focus going forward.
Awesome. I love hearing that. We have a few minutes left here in this last segment, and I have to inevitably ask you, as we've seen many countries going strictly into renewable energy, right? They're 100% renewables. A lot of them are going to hit that goal by 2020, 2025. What are your thoughts on that? Is that really realistic for us in the States and in Colorado?
I don't think so. Certainly not a 2025,
Right.
goal. And we are all about partner. We have an environmental partnership that we're part of. A lot of our member companies, I would say most of them, invest in the renewable space. I mean, we are not just sitting on the sidelines here for sure. And so while we're very interested in that and we think going forward, it's great. Renewables are wonderful, but oil and natural gas will always have a role, in my opinion. So I think, no, it's not realistic for us for 2025. I think that incrementally we will continue to, move in that direction and continue to partner. And again, oil and natural gas will always be at the table.
Yes, I agree with you. Talk about a little bit about your partnerships. The other thing that I think a lot of people think about when they hear about oil and gas industries and organizations that are partners with oil and gas industry folks, tend to think that you're only oil and gas and you're anti-renewables, which is simply not true, right? As we move forward, technologically speaking, there's room for both people to play at the table. So tell me a little bit about your partnerships there and what that looks like and how oil and gas and renewables work together. Because they do.
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, CPC is a subdivision of API, the American Petroleum Institute. It's headquartered in D.C. We have presence, though, or state offices in about 22 states. And we have something called the Environmental Partnership. And really it's, CEOs and senior leaders from a number of organizations, oil and gas, renewables, lots of different spaces. And they come together to problem solve, to talk about how we can work together, what we can do for the future, what makes sense, what's realistic, and what's reasonable. And again, I feel like for our part, we're doing the work. We are looking at these things. We are problem solving. We're not just throwing issues out there and then going, well, that's good luck with that. We're at the table and we're innovating, and we have technological advances every day that are helping to solve problems. And we do that with partners and stakeholders from across the board.
Awesome. I want to ask you a little bit, economically speaking, in Colorado, the oil and gas industry provides a lot of money, particularly for education, actually. Yeah, so to paint that picture for me.
Sure. So annually, the industry contributes about $31.4 billion.
Again, B.
B, with a B, to our economy, supports roughly 230,000 jobs. Of that money, again, a lot of it goes to education. Some of it goes to public services, safety services, local fire departments, police departments, that kind of thing. So we are an integral part of the economy here in Colorado for a number of reasons. I have told people you won't hear me talk about the economics much. Again, I want to focus on health, safety, and environment because those are the concerns we're hearing, right? We're not seeing that, folks aren't holding up signs that say, you need to provide more jobs in the state or we need more money. I think people understand the economic impacts, but it's also a very emotional issue when you talk about health, safety, and environmental impacts. And that's where I really want to focus. I want people to understand that is a priority for this industry. It has been for a long time. So not only are we the cornerstone of the economy here in Colorado, but again, we're what right looks like. We're doing it the right way. We focus on all of those things, and we can have both.
Awesome. Where can I find more information?
API.org.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn. It has been a pleasure. Congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
I foresee you doing some good things there, getting the word out. So be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. You can find more information about API, Colorado Petroleum Council, if you click on the link in the description below. You can find all of our shows at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Have a wonderful day.